The city was the city was outstanding, and the school district was too, although they were behind the scenes because, of course, like many of other of you, it's a very contentious race between two slates of candidates. To my chagrin, the day after, no, actually, I was looking at the September 29th. So actually, that was like a week afterwards, and we were all kind of patting ourselves on the back for how well everything went. When the lead activists for one of these slate of officers wrote a post in our Facebook about all the issues they thought that we had violated with the school district. We didn't, but she thought they were all issues using public property to hold a candidate forum. And of course, some of the candidates are running for re-election. You can't help that. But like, we gave them preferential treatment, I guess, because we held it in the school board boardroom. And the school district employees helped us, but they did it on their own time. We hired our own security. I mean, we felt it was really necessary to have security there. Believe me, it's been a rough year. So anyway, the bottom part of her email was, well, she didn't feel like we owned or had copyright privileges to our recordings, and wanted to use bits and pieces of our recordings to lobby against other candidates that were running. And of course, we had that little policy statement saying that you cannot use a lead tape without permission. Any permit or any use of the tape is prohibited without our permission. And she didn't think she needed to ask for it, and she was going to use bits and pieces, so forth and so on. So anyway, I got a little anxious about that. And in fact, talk about being partisan or nonpartisan. If they're going to use our tape to campaign against other people, I was really pretty stressed about the whole situation, and called Beth and said, what can we do? And Beth wrote something up, because we're going to try. We can't find out how to get a hold of this person anyway, unless we do it through Facebook. And so then we decided to explore more with the national. And that's why we have a policy statement that's been sent out to all of you. And this is just one more piece of putting some policies and some best practices and standards in place for all the things we say and do around candidate forums. Who would ever have thought this would have happened? But I don't know that there's any evidence that it did. We had a council meeting this Tuesday, and no, that was last Tuesday, and talked about whether or not we should try to write a letter and say, if you're going to use this is here are the parameters that you can do that with. But we decided to not take on poke the bear, because it caused more problems, and we've never brought this to light. I mean, this is all in-house right now. We didn't want to say anything to anybody, any of the candidates, to cause any more problems that might come up around this election, because it's real tentative about how it's going to go. But anyway, I think what Beth and I discovered is we really don't know what the consequences are on some of these things, but we definitely need to have a consistent statement by all local leagues of what we say in our rules and guidelines to the candidates. And just be aware. As I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've never had any concern that somebody would take our tape and use it in a nefarious way. So we looked at the tape. Our moderator did replay the tape, and we didn't see anything that we thought that one candidate that could use against another one, in the kinds of statements that were made. So that's why we kind of pulled back. But nonetheless, there's people dreaming up things that you never thought of. And I think it was kind of a heads up to all of us that are voting, work in the voter service and candidate forum area. We need to run a real tight ship from here on out, and just be prepared for anything. So anyway, Beth, you might want to make some more comments about that.
We will just be working on this, working with National as well, to get some standardized language out We will get this done before primaries next June. And if you need anything in the meantime, please call. We will work with you on a case-by-case basis. We do have, you can continue using the language you have been using. If you need help or suggestions, give me a call.
And I think Karen sent out something too.
Yes. Thank you for that, Karen.
Yeah.
Kathy Wilson?
Yeah, just one thing that popped into my mind as Barb was talking. When you're talking about you never know what somebody's going to be doing, we now have AI that's being rolled into this. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, they could manipulate what is being said.
Oh, that's true.
And so I think that that very strong language, I hope US comes with very strong language that we can preface what we do and end what we do, both, both sides of it, to give people pause and know that, and let the voters know that we will be posting the entire forum. Okay, for them to be looking at, that will not be manipulated in any way.
Right. Very good. Okay. Well, this was good discussion. It looks like we have more and there's more to come. Yes, Beth?
Yes. Kathy, Mar, then Maud.
Well, okay.
I just want to say very quickly that I think beyond a statement, with standardized statement about this stuff, we need to have some generalized policy on using other organizations' equipment to do recordings. And if we're in somebody else's facilities using their equipment and they have really ownership of that video or whatever, we have to figure out how to handle that policy-wise so we know exactly who owns it, who can copyright it, who has privileges, blah, blah, blah. So just, we need to figure that piece out too.
No, thank you.
Good thinking.
Totally agree.
Maud?
Is there a way on YouTube to lock a recording so it can't be downloaded? I know people could still film what's showing on their screen, but I wonder if that's something that a piece of technology that could help a little bit.
Interesting. We'll find the answer.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to take a lot more research, but the general things about FCC and FEC and IRS, when you start following up on the specifics of it, it's kind of muddy.
Yeah.
So we really need to pin it down and get some
And
opinions about it.
So we will do that, as soon as we can.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on, we would like to ask you all some questions, pick your brains, around what LWVCO should look like in 5 years. What should we be doing? What should our priorities be? And you may come up with additional answers to some questions that we're going to ask. I know I'm really good at, in the shower, coming up with a great idea, or at 3 a.m. If you can write it down and send them to me via email, please feel free. This is not a closed conversation. This is an open, ongoing conversation. So, how can LWVCO strengthen its advocacy programming in the next 5 years? Barb?
Well, this is gonna be a theme for me. And I'm now talking from the local league level.
Good.
I think we need some more I don't like to say training necessarily. Professional development is what I used to be involved with, but with the people at the local level, especially with the smaller leagues. I think the larger leagues have people that, are really know what they're up to with action and advocacy, but we're always changing the person who's in that position and really understanding what their roles and responsibilities are, and how they are linked to state. And I'll just use that, for example, this study that the News Literacy Group is doing. I get that information, and I don't know if our local league person knows what's going on, but they just need some awareness about what their roles are, what they can do, what they should be doing. And I know you say maybe the local leagues need to do that, but
Yeah.
I'll just generally throw this out too. We really need help with membership development. We really need help with leadership development. I don't know if that's
Right.
relevant.
Yeah, that's great.
It's relevant to the conversation, maybe not particularly this question. That's
Yeah.
okay. We can go out of order. So
Okay.
throw anything out there. So as you're continuing to ponder, now I'll throw out voter services. How can LWVCO strengthen its voter education in the next 5 years? What would look different? What would be better?
QR codes on everything. QR codes on everything. Kathy?
One of the things that we mentioned during our little group meeting for our local legislative action was that our voter services, I don't know how much they know about the legislation that's coming through each session that impact voters, and impact elections. And so we talked about just within our Larimer League, having adding voter services to our liaisons assignments, to let them know about what's coming through, or what's being considered at that point that might impact voters. So just a greater awareness, I think, maybe that's how to put it.
Yeah.
Okay. Kathy Long.
So our league is small, and we really focus on the advocating for the legislation related to environmental issues. It's just the focus of our league, and climate change and environmental issues. So I learned more about the legislative session listening to our state rep and our state senator's presentation here at the local library. But that was after the fact, when the session was finished. So and it was well attended. And so I wish there was a way we could do something earlier in the session. I know things sort of happen fast at the end, and things change right down to the wire in May. But what ways can we work on to get the important issues out to our members before the end of the session?
And we do send out written, legislative action report every couple weeks. But this is good. That's good feedback, Kathy. I wonder. Okay. Linda.
Okay, I'm not sure if this is, I've lost track of what category we're in, but I would like to make a suggestion. I have had a bunch of questions from local leagues about what we do with misinformation and disinformation. And I'm not sure that people are really aware that we have a really good news literacy page. I've been trying to promote it. It's a Larimer County page right now. And sometimes I think that gets confusing, but I'd like to be able to promote that page or have a page, because to me, I know that's part of our task force is news access and literacy, but I really think news literacy is, that page is a tool for, it's part of a citizen's tool, just like Vote 411 or something. It has nothing to do with taking sides. It's completely nonpartisan. It's not issue oriented. And I think it should be available, more accessible to people. Well, I mean, it's important during elections. It's particularly important during elections, but people should be news literate all the time. So that's my suggestion.
Great. Well, Linda, can you and Jane Dunk get together and let's talk about strengthening your task force webpage with some of the material that's on your Larimer page, or even copying your Larimer page, if that's not going to hurt anybody's
Yeah, I have some
or...
ideas. I have some ideas. So yeah, we can talk sometime. I just wanted to bring attention to, we have a really good news literacy page with a ton of tools. And most of our voter services and local leagues, I don't think they know that. And I do have it links to that page, and it is on the news access and literacy page. But if you don't know that, you're not going to go to the news access and literacy page to check that out. So,
Sure.
Okay, I'm done.
Kathy Wilson.
Except I'm going to add to I'm going to add to it. I think on that banner that goes on the homepage for the State League website, perhaps we can put something like misinformation, some heading there that people can access well. And I think I wrote to you, Beth, a couple of days ago about another addition to that banner, because that's where I look for some of this stuff first, and I can't necessarily find it. So I think we could better use the banner for pointing voters, anybody who visits our page to this information, so it clicks faster, so they know they have it.
Are you talking about making that a separate entry across the banner, like there's members and calendar? I'd be very supportive of that. I think that our website is not very user-friendly for people who haven't used it very often. I know you guys in the office have worked really hard to update it. It's very attractive when you click onto it. But I think, like Linda has said, and like Kathy has said, it's really hard if you don't know where to find information to be able to locate it. And so if we could put some little guideposts like across that banner that make it really, really easy. I know I had talked with Katina at one time about doing something for Larimer's media, linking that so that people could see that really easily. I realize the real estate's pretty precious, but I agree with some of the statements that have been made today. Misinformation is a really big issue, and anything that we can do to provide visitors, first-time visitors, casual drop-ins, information on something that will grab their attention and then take them to a site that has the kind of resources that Larimer has developed. To me, that's, Beth, you and I had talked when I was in the role of president of the State League, kind of being being a source of guiding people to being able to find the information that they need, of a clearinghouse, if you will. And I think Kathy's idea might be a good way to start making that kind of information maybe a little bit more easily accessible.
Agreed. I'm just going to say this. I hear a theme. We're talking about the state league. We are sort of the hub of information.
Yes.
So our library has got to be easily accessible, and our library is our webpage.
Right.
And if we did nothing else in the next, at least first year of our strategic plan, tightening up what that looks like, how we link to local leagues, what this, really kind of narrowing down. What do you think, Beth?
I mean, I have absolutely no argument here, except that we do have 9 task forces.
Yes.
And news access and literacy is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we all know that it's terribly important, but you know what? The chairs of the other 8 task forces also believe that their work is very important as well.
Oh,
so
totally hear you there. And I don't think anybody's saying that. I think, right, it's sort of a, for instance, this is what's happening in news and literacy or environment. But I'm wondering about talking, I'm back to my QR codes because I just love the heck out of them. But should news literacy have their own QR code that goes right to a specific link on our webpage if that's what they want to do and that's what they're giving out to whomever? I mean, I just think there's just ways that we can better be the hub. But you're right.
Right.
Yeah, there's not one better than the other. I think that Legislative Action Committee deals with this all the time, right?
Yeah.
Which bill are we going to get behind, with all the Kathy?
Just don't make the assumption that people are going to scroll down the page.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's where the problem is. They need to
Okay.
have that link in that blue banner that goes, the thin blue banner that goes across the top.
Yeah.
Because they don't necessarily know, because to have them, have that link in the blue banner, take them down the page. Great, because it's wonderful once you get there, but you have to know to do it.
Okay, I hear you.
Sure.
Barb?
Well, the thing that comes to my mind is I really think we need a communications plan around this. And we really, I was thinking when we did the the ballot issues, we really thought carefully of how we were going to coordinate the QR codes with the brochures and get people all going to one place, and where we were going to put the information. Like, instead of voter service, we decided to put it under elections, because we knew people, when they came to the website, they didn't know what voter service was or action and advocacy, but they knew elections. So, I mean, that's what part of the plan is, how you lay that out on the website. The other part is, I'd really like to see, and this is a board member as well as a local league person, is some reports and updates on what all the task force are doing. And maybe we could have that in the Friday morning thing. So how are we going to direct traffic to all these different?
Exactly.
And so I don't know, that's a plan. I don't have any ideas, but we need a strategic plan.
I appreciate that, because I agree, it's a plan, and this is a strategic plan, and this is one that we're saying, okay, we need a plan to plan, so to speak. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it doesn't. We have to really be thoughtful about it and see how we move forward on this. I agree. Beth, I know you need to jump off at 1 o'clock.
But I'm going to throw out the next question.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, folks, I need to leave almost immediately to go to a memorial service. So Irene is going to keep going here, and thank you, Irene. So how can LWVCO strengthen its support of local leagues over the next 5 years?
Think, and our league does not have a formal leader. And I think there's some other leagues in that same position. So that's why I mentioned, I think we need some leadership development, need some action plan on how to recruit newer, younger members, because this group, my group, is aging out quickly. I mean, that's just the fact. So I don't know, whatever we decide to do, those are two things that I think are really important. And not just leadership, just I'm talking about a whole board, what are all the different players on a board that you need to sustain the work that we're doing? And how do we bring volunteers on board? We tried to bring new members on board, and they're going, well, we're just going to kind of support your work. We don't really want to be a worker bee. So I mean, what's that transition? And do it in concert with what's going to happen with national when they open up the gates and try a different membership plan. So that's what I've been thinking about, but we are in need of that kind of support.
Okay, I'm gonna head.
Bye, Beth.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Anybody else have a comment on there? Kathy, I thought I saw Kathy Long. I think I saw you raising your hand.
I second what Barb's saying about leadership development, and just new member orientation. It feels like we just have to keep reinventing the wheel to figure out how to make things work. And right now I have a very strong team, but I'm thinking 6 months ahead. Oh boy, what if so-and-so says they're not going to do that anymore? Where am I going to find the next person? So anyway, I think I'm also the membership director, which kind of tells you that in a smaller league, people wear a lot of hats. And I wish that let's see. I don't know. I guess I'm struggling because with these changes with the transformation, I just don't know how that is going to help us to know our new members and know their interests and know, when we reach out to them, how to engage them with the league. I do a lot of that by the phone calls, but I also use what we have now on Club Express to get a sort of a background feeling for who I'm talking to. So anyway, that is one of my concerns. I want to thank Karen Sheep for just being such a constant support for local leaders, and being able to talk to her when I have issues that are too sensitive even to discuss with my board members. So thank you for what we're doing now as well.
So I heard you say, how will the new membership model affect your membership engagement, basically?
Right.
Okay.
Because now,
and I also want to ask this to the group then. Let's follow up. Karen Sheik does just one heck of a job, doesn't she? And you all really rely on Karen. And if you had just brought up earlier, we need to talk about succession planning, etc. What do you think we should do as the state league? Do we keep this a volunteer position? Do we figure out how to really have a liaison that helps? I mean, what are you all thinking? I mean, if Karen, the person, leaves tomorrow, what does it look like? Do you still want a liaison? That's my question.
I'm going to say absolutely.
Would you call that one of sort of the top 3 strengths of what the state does for the local leagues, is the liaison?
Yes, for
Yeah.
me, it's in the top 3.
It's in the top 3. Because that's my next question. What the top 3 strengths are. We should, for the state. So I'm thinking, yeah, I do think that too. Okay. Anybody else?
Everything
Come on.
related to elections and voter service is another one that comes from the state.
Say that again.
Everything related to elections and voter service.
Okay.
I'd like to say that one of the strongest things that we've had is some kind of resource that helps us handle tricky questions. And as I'm listening to everyone, I think we've all had some kind or another tricky question, sometimes bordering on the legal, sometimes bordering on the public relations. And we've really, in our group, really have relied a great deal on Beth and her team, and Karen, who has been so consistent to help us, and having someone where we can bounce off questions and say, what do we do now? What is it that would fit with the state and national as far as what's allowed or not allowed? And so just being a strong resource. But I also am really aware of the fact that we need to be looking at what younger group of people will do, because in our group we've had some younger people who really have done some remarkably good work, and they're very energetic, and they're coming up with ideas all the time. And every once in a while, I notice those ideas bump into those of us who are older and who've been around a while. And we say, oh, should we be doing that? And I think being more open and aware of how the younger people really approach doing the work that we think is so important to do is really one of the key pieces. It's very hard to get to. And I know lots of people talk about, well, it's all into social media. Well, I do think that is one main way in which we could maybe be more involved if we were a little more sensitive to how that really works. And but allowing some of the younger people to forge ahead and maybe make their own mistakes, or maybe their own successes, because in our group we've been able to see, some of us who've been in a while, we've been able to see the younger people being successful, doing it their way, and asking them how you want to do it. Why is it you want to do it that way? That's really valuable, and letting them really perform. Because I think we can't see it through their eyes.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, absolutely. How do we get to there? You're right. We're so comfortable in our own league speak and our own league rules and who we are. And what also makes it a little more difficult is that we are, the state, reports to LWV.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they've got some strong opinions on things. Like everybody knows that, just I'll pick fundraising, right? Even as a local league, you can't just go out there and say, well, I'm going to approach this, I always pick on Coors, because they will donate to my local league. But then somebody says from the, national, oh, wait a minute, That's our account, so to speak. Don't tread. So how do we get better at right, coordinating all that? Because I
Exactly.
think what you're saying, Donna, is that the kids are going to run. The children will run with this if we let them. And we have to be good with that. And what does that look like? You
Yeah.
know?
I think that's where we have to do the planning.
Yeah.
If you talk about where we're supposed to be in 5 years, I want to say, think about our last 5 years. We are nowhere near like what we thought 5 years ago would be. We're not like it at all. We have made enormous strides in so many areas in our society, and then we as a group have gone. I mean, nobody used QR codes 5 years ago, and it is one of the places I'm really concerned about as to how can we I don't have to think we have to speak their language, but I think we have to allow them to have their language and support it. And when they are getting ready to do this thing or that thing, and you think to yourself, oh dear, I don't know if they should do it. Well, I think that's a cue to us to kind of evaluate and say, well, after all, I'm not going to be here after a while. They may as well go ahead and do it.
Yeah, great, thank you. Any others on this question about the 3 strengths, the 3 top strengths? I've heard liaison, everything related to elections and voter services. And I have to agree there. We have to that's our mainstay. That's our, meat and potatoes of what we do. We have to remember that. Anybody else have anything to say on? Oh,
Yeah.
Maude.
If I can plug in here, one of the efforts that we've been making is providing voter information in Spanish. And
yes,
our numbers aren't technically large enough for the county to do that. So we're working on doing that as part of voter information.
so more dual language programming. If the state would, okay, that's a good one.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay. Anybody else? Maude?
I think that I appreciate Barb thinking that, or whoever it was, thinking that the larger leagues kind of have action dialed in for local action, but Arapahoe Douglas, which is on the larger side of leagues, the only action that our group was doing was on the housing and homelessness group, and we were asked at our annual meeting to do more action, and then action and advocacy group formed, and thought, we'll take action. We're going to support other committees. At least this fall, we'll help work on ballot forums, which is a great thing to do, but it's not what I think the state thinks of as action and advocacy. So even for larger leagues, I think maybe some guidance on action. I have no idea to do that because I know Kathy Wilson and I, and probably Andrea, are overloaded, much less underloaded. Yeah, we have negative amounts of spare bandwidth at this point.
Okay, thanks. Jane?
I'm constantly learning about the importance of communication, clear communication, personalized communication, and I'll just add on to that's what Karen Sheik does. It's what Barbara has done, was to reach out. So you may need more personnel at your office to handle some of these things that will provide consistency. But I think it's important that as we go through this, whatever we come up with of how we want to be in 5 years, or what do you want to add, that you communicate that as we go through the process, and not deliver a done deal when you finally decide what it is that we're going to do. That's, to me, that's why the pushback on the transformation is going through this was, they may have said they wanted us involved in this and they gave us a chance to volunteer. That was not clear. So I don't feel like Colorado was heard. Certainly don't feel like membership at the local levels were heard. And so let's learn from that and communicate to our Colorado members as we go through this.
Yeah, good thinking, Jane. Barb.
I just want to follow up and make a comment, which Maud made me think of. When we had a lot more people, we did issue forums. I mean, the action and advocacy people, we did issue forums on oil and gas and fracking and transparency in government and redistricting, and but that's just the person power that we've lost. But so there's a real big, I don't know, a component that I think we could do a better job with in action and advocacy at the local level, because there's a lot of things that we're being confronted with that is in our own backyard. And lastly, I'm a team person, but as we talk, I think that we need to expand perhaps our teams at the state level to help, because we all can't do everything, and I think we need more people to be on a team. And I've also thought that I think that perhaps a local league member could be an advisor person, representative on different teams to help state communicate their needs to.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that idea. All right. Let's see what else I have here. This is just the general question. How can we best support you? Is it with direct member engagement activities? Is it funding and partnerships, or is it admin support for local leagues? What are you looking for?
I think it's all those things.
I was going to say, is there all of the above anywhere in that answer? Yes.
No, I hear you. Yeah.
And some of those things may be more important to one league at one particular time than they are to another league. But that's where the individual leagues should be encouraged to reach out and contact the state.
Okay.
And I hope they know that they can do that. We certainly have tried to remind folks that the state is there and available to provide support and assistance.
Well, and I'd certainly like to say thanks for all the support we've gotten already. I have found that at the State League, it's been very responsive. It's been very thoughtful help, and we've felt like they've always been there for us. And our group really appreciates that. So thank you.
Okay. And then I guess just as a member, can you speak to the same thing? I know you're a local league, but as a member, what would you like to see the state do? Is it the engagement thing that we were talking about earlier? I don't know. Is it better pathways to action and advocacy? Leadership development, I keep hearing that. I think that's per member, speaks definitely to that. Am I missing anybody?
I've been a member for a while now, but I still feel like a novice because I've been so wrapped up in my HOA board. But just saying, what was it, voter services? I didn't really know what that meant. And if the term could link more to election information or something like that, that would, I agree, that would be more useful to people who don't use the website that often.
Yeah, we talk a lot at the state level about our league speak.
Yeah,
We just have it, and those that have been in it a long time, you can't lose it, you know, because you're and you don't even hear yourself saying these things, you know. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I've been looking for another label.
Yeah.
Because I understand, I mean, that's really dated. Voter services, like, you are offering a service, and before they had them, you know, election departments and secretaries of states and clerks and recorders, they've, you know, grown leaps and bounds. I mean, and we don't even really think about doing voter registration unless it's targeted at a group, a special group or something like that. But, you know, a long time ago, we really needed to be out there registering to voters and making a difference on, you know, voter participation. But, you know, we live in a state that's really been blessed when it comes to voting and voter security and how we vote and that sort of thing. But I think we're shifting more towards voter education. But I think we think that way, but I think the public thinks like elections.
right, right.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so my last thing here, if I could ask you all to jump into the chat. I think Jane, Dunk, will this work if we get them to jump into the chat and tell us, because I just want to get some information. So when we bring this back and start talking about this, the strategic plan, if you will just put in the chat your name. It says age group. I don't know how to put yourself in your age group, except you could just in your decade of ages would probably be helpful. Length of time that you've been in the league would be helpful. And then the areas that you are in leadership and involvement. It doesn't have to be a whole long thing. Just say I'm doing, you know, I'm chair of. And then your league and whether you think it's rural, suburban, or urban, so we can classify these. Do you all mind doing that for me? Jane, will this work? Can you see? I'm on an iPad, so I'm not seeing the chat. So you're getting what you need.
Yeah, I'm getting some, and I'll copy it off so I can tally it all up.
Perfect.
That's a lot for us to remember.
Right, because you kind of run over that
in our short-term memory.
Oh, that's
here.
fine. That's fine.
Here, I'll actually put it in the chat for you. How's that?
That's
oh,
good.
Jane, you're awesome. Thank you. And while you're working on this, I guess I'll just end with this. Anything for the good of the order, meaning, is there anything you just, you know, we haven't covered that you think the state needs to be doing? Tell us. And if you don't need to, I mean, tell us out loud here. You can put it in the chat. You can email Beth. What do you think we should be doing? Because I think she's right. You have to kind of think about what this is. And truly, with the whole new membership model, things will change. What does that mean to all of us? We're thinking very, you know, heavily at the state what this is going to mean, but we need to hear what you think it's going to mean to you. And we have heard from a couple of the local leagues that are pushing back, that are saying, this is not for us, this is not going to work, and why. All right. If anything else? All right, then I think once you've put that in the chat for us, we'll end this meeting. We will have a meeting hopefully next month. Karen, we just can't thank you enough. This doesn't happen without you. Really, this communication, this coordination, this feeling of, wow, somebody's got my back. Karen Sheik's got my back, and she's going to make sure that we don't do something we shouldn't do, or will praise us when we do have something that's done. So Karen, thank you so much for all that you do in this work.
Well, it's working with you all and other people.
Yes.
It's good
All
passing
right.
information.
If anybody
Thank
doesn't
you all.
want
I'm
to put
sorry
in
this went
general
long.
chat the information, feel free to direct message me.
All right. Well, thanks again. And we'll see you all.
See you next
Bye.
time. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Jane, if you'll stay on for a minute.
I will. I'm going to
Thank
stop
you.
recording.